This is a 7 billion human being historical news. They spent 40, 50, 60 years in the Gaza Strip. It's not their land. It's not their property. They need to get out. You need to get out. You need to take the troops out of there. Need to let Palestine become a state, become a country. It needs to happen. It's going to need to happen. To get a ceasefire and a peace, it's going to need to happen. They need to get out of the Gaza Strip. They have no right there. They have no legal claim to that territory. It's not theirs. It belongs to Palestine. That's the truth. That's the news. That's the fact. 6 decades they've been keeping that land from the from the Palestinian people. Well, I'm not afraid to tell people the truth. It's the truth of human life. That land belongs to Palestine. That land in the Gaza Strip belongs to Palestine. It does not belong to Israel. They have no right to even be there at all. They should be out of there. They should get the hell out of there. Take their troops and their planes and get the hell out of there. Because it's not part of their land. It's not something they own. Something took over 60 years ago. And these people have a right to their own nation. To their own nation. It's all they want. Hamas is a terrorist. They don't agree with him. I saw a guy talking the other day. He don't know which one's worse, the Israelis or the Arabians, because there are people in this country in Palestine that just want to live their life. The people in Palestine just want to live their life. Now they invade it with troops. It's not right. It's not. It's not real. It's not reality. It's not the truth. It's not what they should do. It's not what they do. They need to get the hell out of the Gaza Strip and stop the 60-year war fighting between Palestine and Israel, or 50 years, or whatever the hell it is. But it's ridiculous, it's too long, and it's outrageous. It's outrageous because they need to get out of the Gaza Strip. Period. All the way out. All the way out. It's time they gave back the land that they took 50 years ago and have no right to. That's the human truth. That's the human fact. That's the human life. That's the human reality. Too long. They have a right to defend themselves. I'm not saying they don't. But they have a right to get out of the Gaza Strip. They have to get out of the Gaza Strip. In order for Hamas to stop bombing them, all they need to do is get out of the Gaza Strip. It's that simple. These terrorists have to be stopped. I'm not saying they don't. But they have to get out of the Gaza Strip. In order for Palestine to be a nation, they need to be a nation. They need to be a nation with their own entity, their own ethnicity, and everything else that goes along with it. But Israel has no right. Has no right to the Gaza Strip. They have no right to the Gaza Strip. And I really don't care whether they like it or not. It's the truth. It's a fact. It's a reality. It's the human truth. I don't blame anybody. I don't hate anybody. I don't deny anybody. But this war has been going on for 50 years off and on. It's long enough. It's time that the Gaza Strip does not belong to the Israelis. It belongs to Palestine. Palestine should be a nation. Palestine should be an independent nation. And Hamas should get out there too. Terrorists are not wanted in the world. Terrorists are not wanted in the world. Stop the bombing, and Israel says stop the troops. It's a shame that one nation has to invade another, like we invaded Iraq, thanks to George Bush, his big mouth. Look what happened there. Look at the history of what happened in war. Look at the history of what happened in war. Innocents die. But both that guy from Israel yesterday said the right way. Right way. He's not sure which is the worst, the Arabians or the Israelis. Because they just want to live their life. Most people in that nation just want to live their life and be left alone and enjoy themselves. They want to live. They have a right to live. They have a right to their own nation. But it's not going to happen like this. It's not going to happen like this. The rocket fire has to stop. The Palestinian people have to get Hamas to stop the rocket fire. And the Israeli people have to get out of Palestine. Period. That's the truth of human life. That's the fact of human life. That's the goddamn reality of human life. It's about time. It's about time that after 50 years of living in there, they need to get out of there. I know they think they own that land, but they don't. It belongs to Palestine. It belongs to Palestine. Not Hamas, but to the Palestinian people themselves. And all they want to do is live their lives. Like the Iraqi people, with all the terrorists and all the other people that are over there. Butchering and slaughtering and torturing. trying to get people to live the way they want to live. Well, I got news for you. It's not a world where people are told how to live, where people have to live the way people want to live. People want to live free. They want to live with truth. They want to live truth, with honor, with human rights, human freedoms, human speech, and the right to go to school, the right to learn. Like the Israeli women are not allowed to go to church. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. It's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. Some of these, like I said, with the changing times has to be the changing of religions, the changing of the ways of religions, in order to meet the people's needs for all nations, for all people, especially Israelis and Palestine. They're not going to get a nation unless they get rid of Hamas. They're not going to get a nation unless they get rid of Hamas. And Hamas is not going to leave there. Israelis are going to go in there and blow the hell out of anything that moves. Just because they drop leaflets doesn't mean they're not responsible for those children's death. Doesn't mean they're not responsible for those children's death. Should not be bombing residential neighborhoods. Should not be invading residential neighborhoods. There are people there that are living with their families that have nothing to do with this and don't want nothing to do with it. That's the truth of human life. That's the fact of human life. That's the reality of human life. It's a shame. It really is a shame. The loss of human life that will come from this. Both governments need to think about it. Both. The terrorists and the Israelis need to think about this. It's about time that you stop thinking about yourselves and your holy land, and the hell with the holy land. Get the hell out of the Gaza Strip and let these people live their lives. And Hamas, get the hell out of Palestine. Let the Israelis live their life. But they need to get out of the Gaza Strip. It's about time that it happened. 50 years later, they're still there. It's not your property. It's not your country. It's not part of your country. The Gaza Strip is part of Palestine. It's a shame that people get used and abused. Unlike Obama, I don't bow to supremacy. Israel has a right to defend itself. So does Palestine. So does Palestine. They have a right to defend themselves, but not by terrorist rocketing. This needs to be settled by an outside country. It needs to be settled by the UN. UN needs to make Palestine a nation. UN needs to make Palestine a nation to stop all this nonsense from happening. And where the hell is the UN? With some type of ceasefire. There can't be a ceasefire until the rocket stops. Stop rockets in Palestine. Stop rockets. I'll tell you the truth. The people are sick of it. The people are sick of it on both sides. The people are sick of you people playing God with human lives. Children die, get burned, get blown up, get blasted, get killed. People are sick of it on both sides. I listened to that guy yesterday. He was mad as hell. He didn't know which one to blame. The Arabians or the Israelis. Who do you blame? It's time to stop looking for blame. Start looking for agreements. Start looking for peace. Start looking for quiet. Start looking for human rights and human freedoms on both sides of the border. And get the hell out of the Gaza Strip. Like I said, this is historical news. This is historical show. It's the truth of human life. That they have a right to live in their own nation. They have a right to live in their own nation. And the guy said the best, he couldn't take his children back. Well, they feel less guilty because they dropped leaflets telling people to leave. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go with the terrorists there? Where are they going to go? What you got to understand, the Palestinian people are dying, and they have nothing to do with this. It's Hamas, the terrorists. And the Palestinian people are going to suffer for it. They're going to suffer for it because the Israelis are outmanned. The Palestinians are outmanned, brother. Excuse me. They're outmanned. They don't have the firepower that the Israelis do. We have to stop supplying weapons to these nations where people don't know what the hell they're doing with them. Too many lives are lost. Too many innocents are lost. Too many human lives have been sacrificed around the world already. Too many human lives, too many human innocents have been sacrificed around the world already. It has to stop. It has to stop. We have to take in consideration that these people have been at this for 50 years. 50 years of total chaos and insanity. It's time to stop. Get out of the Gaza Strip Make Palestine a nation, and let's get rid of Hamas. Because they have nothing to do with the Palestinian people. These people just want to live their life. And that's the truth of human life. That's the fact of human life. That's the reality of human life. Same thing in Syria and Iraq. These terrorists invade these nations and try to make martial law, Nazi law, whatever you want to call it, whatever Nazi religion, whatever the hell they call it. So, no, it's not right. Because if you take the Israeli people want to live their lives, the Palestinian people want to live their lives, the Syrian people just want to live their lives, the Iraqi people just want to live their lives, but nobody is willing to meet each other on equal ground and equal equality. And this is what has to come. Equal equality, human rights, human freedoms, freedom of speech, the growth of human life. The growth of human life has to come. People have to evolve beyond that killer instinct, just to slaughter and butcher human lives. That's the historical news. That's the human news. That's the human reality. Is people have to get beyond the hatred, the killing, the slaughtering, the blowing up of human lives all over this damn world, for Christ's sake. This is what needs to happen in both Iraq, Israel, Palestine, Egypt, Pakistan, Iran, all people. Equality of life is what most people want in these nations. They want an equality of life in these nations. That's all they want. But the terrorists are so embedded in these nations that these people don't have a chance. These people don't have a chance to get that equality of life. That quality of life. Unless they're living and not existing. Women are bashed and beaten. People are beaten across their legs. People's limbs are chopped off. This archaic 1800, 1700, 1400 religion has to stop. We have to get into the 21st century. We have to get into the 21st century. That's the human fact. That's the human news. That's the human reality. That human rights and human freedoms and human freedom of speech is part of life for all people, for all nations, for all humanity. That's the truth of human life. Is most Iraqis don't want to fight. Most Israelis don't want to fight. Most Palestinians don't want to fight. You only have those that are in power and the terrorists. And the terrorists aren't going to do enough because they don't care who dies or why they die or how they die as long as they have control of people's lives. People just want to control people's lives. You can't do that. You cannot do that. You cannot live life like that. People were not meant to be subservient to people with guns. It just don't happen that way. It don't work that way. It's the wrong way of human life. And maybe someday the world will understand that the only equality in life is for all people, for all nations, for all humanity. But Israel needs to get out of the Gaza Strip. And it's just that simple. Just that human. It's time to be human. It's time to be human. People say they believe in God, but they slaughter human life like it's just human beef. No. It's time for growth. It's time for change. It's time for healing. It's time for growth. It's time for care. It's time for peace. It's what this show, it's what this site's all about. The rights of all people, all nations, to be a nation, to be their own people, to build schools, to build power plants, to build electric, to live, let their children live, stop killing each other, slaughtering children and women. Where does it end? Boko Haram. These terrorist groups have to be stopped, not just by people outside, but by people inside. Sometimes you have to fight to make life better. Sometimes you have to fight to make life better. But people have to put their foot down because these people just want to live a natural life. Most Muslims you meet just want to live life. They just want to live life. They're tired of hiding in the closet or hiding somewhere because they're gay or they're this or they're that or they don't want to go to church or they don't want to bow down. Why? Nobody has the right to tell another human being how to live. Nobody has a right in any nation to tell any human being how to live. And that's the truth of human life. That's the reality of human life. That's the fact of human life. That's the historical news. And with great freedom comes great responsibility. And that responsibility should be given to these people, and not by butchers like Assad. People may call him hero. When you leave a trail of dead bodies, 200,000 or more, you're not a hero. You're a killer. You're a terrorist. You're a maniac. Change needs to come to all these nations. They need to get into the 21st century and realize that freedom of rights, freedom of speech, food, water, schools are a lot better than blowing the goddamn hell out of each other. That's the human truth. That's the human fact. That's the human reality. That's the human life. Israel needs to get out of the Gaza Strip. 50 years they've been there. That's the truth of human life. That's the fact of human life. Human rights, human freedom, human justice, equality, and equality of life. But it cannot come as long as terrorists rule. As long as terrorists rule. But I'll bet you my last dollar that if you asked any Palestinian, they'd say they're just tired of the war. They're just tired of the fighting. They're tired of the war. They're tired of dragging their kids out of their homes. That same thing if you ask the Israelis. They'll tell you the same goddamn thing. But all these rulers who think that war is the answer to everything. Kill it, shoot it, blast it, bomb it, blow it up, blast it, blow it off the earth. It's not the answer. It's never been the answer. And it never will be the answer. And that's why there will never be a lasting peace on this earth until all people realize that most of these people that live in these nations do not want this poison, do not want this egregious cancer called terrorism. They don't want it. They don't want it. They don't want it. That's the human truth. That's the human fact. That's the human thing. They want freedom. They want rights. They want humanity. They want the right to be a man, a woman, or a child and go to school and live and learn. It's that simple. But with terrorists running around ruling the world, they can't have it. They can't have it. And that's the human truth. And this is the 7 billion human being historical news. That's the human truth. That's the human truth. That's the human reality. That's the human race. How do you reach that level of freedom? How do you reach that level of freedom that tells these people they can be free? That's what the governments and the nations of the free world have to realize. Of all these worlds, of all worlds, of all countries have to realize. How do we get to the point where peace becomes life for the mothers, the fathers, the children? Where jobs become workable and safe? Where life becomes livable, peaceful, quiet for all people? This is what the UN has to work on. Why isn't the UN involved in this? Why isn't every nation involved in this? We need a world of nations that are committed to peace and not war and killing and slaughtering and butchering and hacking up every human life that comes along. We need that. The whole world needs that. That's the human truth. That's the human fact. That's the human reality. That's the human life. As you listen, like I do, to the people who send me emails, they're tired of it. Like the guy said in the Gaza Strip yesterday, where are we supposed to go? Hamas is going to terrorize and the Israelis invade them. And innocents die. Innocents die. That's what bothers me. You go to Iraq, innocents die. You go anywhere in the world, it's the innocents that die. They call it plausibility for war. It was an accident. Malaysia plane was shot down. It was no accident. They shot it down on purpose. They deliberately shot it down. We're living in a world that sets war above everything else. We're living in a world that puts war above everything else on this earth. And it cannot work like this. It cannot work like this. It will fail this time. It will fail every time. Until peace is sought by all people and all nations. That's the truth of human life. This is 7 billion human beings starting the news telling you the truth. It's the truth of human life. It's the truth of human life. It's the reality of human life. That if you were to walk in Iraq and talk to them people, most of them just want to live their life. They just want to live their life. They want to work, support their families, and their children play. Same thing in Israel. Same thing in Palestine. Same thing in Iraq. Same thing in Ukraine. Same thing in Russia. You can't live in nations where dictators, terrorists are rulers. You can't live under the act of terror every single day because people cannot survive like that. People are put in the middle of that jungle of terrorists. But the question is now, how do we get them out of there? How do we get them out of there? How do we stop it without losing more innocent human lives? That's the question. How do we get them out of there without losing more innocent human lives? That's the most important thing. Human lives. That's the most important thing. Human lives, human dignity, human rights, human freedoms, humanity. Because that's all there is. That's all there is. You take that away from life, there is no life. People want to live. People have to help people live. We have to do this as a world. It's time that all people were set free, given freedoms, given the right of speech, given the right of choice, given the right of life, to live with dignity and honor and equality. It's not too much to ask for any nation. It's not too much to ask for any nation. Whether it be Palestine, Israel, Iraq, Iran, even America, where they listen to our phone calls. There are all kinds of things. But peace should be the quota. Peace should be the focus. Peace is the drive. Peace is the drive, and you'll find out that most people believe in back to human life. That peace is the answer to everything, not war. But too many times, too quick a hurry, everybody think that war and guns and killing and slaughtering people are the answer. It's not the answer. It's just the death of innocent human beings. And I promise to be their voice. And I will be their voice. Until this site closes, or until I die, I will be their voice. This is the 7 billion human being historical news. Thank you for watching.